So first of all, I suggest that you use, and I see in general that you all use your name and your last name. But if you are using nicknames, or just your name without your surname, it will be difficult to uh, to keep up, because we are taking some reports of attendance, and also we are archiving all this. So you won't be able to be seen as here. So do not use nicknames, your friends' names, or just your name. For example, I'm seeing a Kerem's iPhone. Kerem, put your surname also, please, so we can see that you are here. You really attended the course. So this is very important. For example, I see just the Drew. As I say, put your name and surname together, please. Or your, for example, your identity number of student number, it's also okay. But it's really important for us to have your all whole name actually. Okay? So there can be a same name for few of you. If you put your surname also, it will show you your attendance. So these reports will be important for your assessment also. Yes. Thank you, Duru. I'm I hope Kerem will be the same thing also. Okay. We have an N, for example. Uh, Now I'm doing it, I'm checking all the list, but please, I will not check every time. So if I don't see your name and surname or your student number in a whole, so you won't be able to be accepted as attended, because we wouldn't know who really this person is. So it's really important for you to put your whole name. Like Sinemis, please put your surname also. And this N, just N, put your name and surname. Melissa also. Now for the first day, I'm checking, as I say, but when we have the reports, if I cannot find who you are, you won't be accepted as attendant. I'm putting here. I hope everyone will see. So, okay. Um, Let me give you some insights about this course. We will have 14 weeks as in the whole semester, as you know. I hope you also the syllabus, and you can find it in Blackboard if you haven't seen already. Uh, what we are telling you, what we are suggesting you in the syllabus is correct. It's our pace procedure. But if, for example, we have some minor changes, we will also inform you during the semester, and we will always send you messages from Blackboard. So check your Blackboard messages and also your emails. Every week we will have an online courses. So we will always send you a Zoom link. It can be sent by me or your the other teachers. We have Özüm Hatipoğlu, who is the courses coordinator. So she is the one who coordinates all our procedures. So you can email me or to Özüm if there is a question, if there is a problem. For example, if you haven't received your Zoom link, uh, please check with us, because actually every in generally on Thursdays, just one day before, I actually send you the Zoom links, so you should have them. So check your, as I say, messages and your emails. As if you have already seen, but I will repeat it, you will be assessed like 10% will be like quiz, like a participation. It's also meaning that you were here. So it's quiz, participation, attendance. The whole idea is 10%. So every teacher will have a quiz in during their courses. So you will have 2 or 3 quizzes in the whole semester, and we will have this. We will calculate on this quizzes your 10% at the end of the finals. Uh, it will be a random day, so I don't know in which week we will have it, but of course, when we will have it, the subjects that we have already seen will be included. Your midterm will be assessed as 40% of your whole grade, and the final exam will be 50%. So you will be responsible, for example, for the midterm, from all the subjects that we already told until the midterm. Then you will be responsible for the finals from the weeks that will come after the midterm. So you won't be responsible of whole the weeks for the finals. So this will be the exams. And let me see what I have to say. Again, I told you about the quizzes. The exams are generally like multi-choices exams. We can give you, for example, some questions and multi choices of generally 5 choices, and you will choose the right one. We can ask you, is it which one is true, which one is false, for example, or we can ask you the answer of a question and choose from the choices. There can be questions like little paragraphs, and we give you, for example, a definition or just a paragraph or just a text, and we will ask you questions about this. So it will be a reading and understanding. So it will look at your perception of this concept. There can be also questions like fill in the blanks. So we will write a sentence and we will let, for example, uh, blank is an art style that occurred in 18th century, for example. So you will fill in the blanks. And also we can ask some visuals and to match it with the names or definitions. For example, we can show you a painting and ask you what is the name of this painting or who is the painter of this painting. We will write them and we will ask you to match the names to the visuals. Of course, these visuals will all be included in your notes. We will upload every week the notes of the presentations or all we share during the courses with you to Blackboard. And every week, these courses are recorded from Zoom. So we will upload also these videos to Blackboard and you can look at them again, or if you missed the course this day, you can watch the course and you won't lose any information. So every visual have their names, their definite descriptions, etc. on the in our presentations. So we will not ask you some random visuals. So you are all responsible of the notes of the presentations that we upload. So do not worry, every question will be chosen between your notes, so you won't miss anything else. Maybe you saw also in the syllabuses, there is some videos, some books that we offer you to read if you want to have much more insights about the subject and have to better understand them. So you can read them and find them in the school's library. I think all exists. So we do not suggest you any book that doesn't exist in the library already. Of course, we will all take your questions during the courses, and maybe I didn't cover every question. I don't know for now. These are this is a brief introduction actually about the course. Uh, do you have for now any question about the introduction to the procedures of the course? So if you will have any questions about the course, the subjects that we are covering, of course, every time you can stop me and ask me your questions. If you want any other explanation, we can explain it. Or, for example, our language, the course's language is English. If you want to express yourself, you didn't feel that you can express yourself enough in English or you don't understand the English explanation, we can recover it in Turkish also, just these parts. But we will prefer always the first language is English because of the, mm, no, it's an English course. So, any questions before beginning the first day, or is it clear for now?
Can I ask something about the quiz?
Yes.
Um, do we know if it's before the midterms or in between the midterms and the finals?
So this course has 14 weeks, but all the semester is 14 weeks, as you know. But we are two or three teachers, so it changes uh, according to the subject that we are covering. So for the first 5 weeks, I will be your teacher. then you will have another teacher. So during these 5 weeks, you will have a quiz because it's my time. And then you will have 1 or 2 weeks with another teacher until the midterm. I don't, and then after the midterm. So I don't know if this person, the other teacher, will make a quiz before the midterm or after the midterm, but it's generally after the midterm. So within these 5 weeks, you will have a quiz. It's for sure, and it will be before midterm. So this is all I can say for myself for you. But as I say, if the second teacher decides to have another quiz before the midterm, this will be his or her choice. But what is sure is in 5 weeks you will have a midterm, and actually it will be 7 or 8 weeks that you will have your midterm. So you will have at least one quiz before the midterms. So it's a long answer, I know, but is it clear for you, Deniz?
Yes, it wasn't clear to me that we were going to have multiple quizzes, but now it's clear to me. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? So, we will always send you notifications, emails, Blackboard messages. So you will always be aware of any changes that is made, and you will be able to ask questions to us. So you can send me messages on Blackboard, or my email is also on the syllabus. So Özüm's and my email are written there. You can send us questions in general if you have general questions or about the courses. So for now, I think we are good to start. This course, as you know, you are from different disciplines. Actually, there are engineering students, there are psychology students, and you may ask yourself why we are having this course, why there is a common course for all the school, and we have to learn about art. So art is inseparable of technology and science, actually. And with the new technologies rising, especially today with the AI's presence, people saw that to be human and to enhance the human knowledge, you have to go back and be more aware of. Yes, Nihal.
I'm sorry, teacher. I just jumped off the conversation, but I want to ask about a quiz. I'm a little bit late, so I didn't hear about the quiz information. Can you repeat again?
So, as we say, this is a 14 weeks semester, but it will be given by 2 or more teachers. So the first 5 weeks is mine. So you will have in these 5 weeks a quiz, and it will be surely before the midterm. So every teacher will, during their weeks, they will make a quiz. But after me, I don't know if my friend will have a quiz before the midterm or after the midterm. She or he, because we are arranging it's the pace again. So when he or she will start giving you the courses, will inform you about his or her quiz. But be sure that you will have at least one quiz before midterm and within these 5 weeks. And actually, normally we don't say when we will have quizzes, of course, but I think you may have it on your fourth or fifth week with me because I want to cover a few weeks and give you some notes and time to work on it. So
Okay, what kind of question quiz we going to have?
all our quizzes and midterms, our exams are based on multi choices. So questions, true or false, or fill in the blanks, but you will have multi choices for them.
Okay, teacher, thank you.
Okay. So as I said, to challenge our more humanly part, we have to go back to art and what will makes us uh, make us more creative and more able to solve the problems and have a difference and have an authenticity, and also uh, to challenge your mindset to try to perceive things differently than the routines, than the standards. Art and arts history will help you. So if we can give you some insights and some general culture and general information about art history, societies, history, how we perceived everything until today, how we perceived also, for example, aesthetics or for example, prehistoric art, what was it? So it will give you a whole idea and the whole ability to take things from different angles. So we will try to give you some insights about it. So you don't have to like or be interested in, especially in every art style or every visual arts or musical arts, etc. But every question and every piece, every style of art, every attempt of making art, everything that the artists show you will be a problem, will be a puzzle, will be a challenge for you. So it can be, you can look at it as an exercise and to empathize with others and perceive different ideas and take them and use them for yourself in your future, also in your work life or in your personal life. So use it as a tool for you. If you are interested in all these subjects, it will of course make will be much fun and much interesting for you. But as I say, if you don't like anything or if it's not in your hobbies, for example, or your interests, take it as a challenge, as a problem to solve, then it will be much more easier to cooperate with. So our first week, we will look at aesthetics because it's generally the basics of arts, and especially when we are talking about visual arts. Let me share you my screen. Can you see, I hope?
Yes, we see.
Okay, thank you, Nihal. So our first course plan is what is art and aesthetic appreciation. So of course the question of what is art is a very large and maybe undefinable question, but we will show you, this is the second question, of course, can art be defined? And what makes something an artwork? And a little question for us for the future, can AI productions called art objects? Can AI make art? This is our in general in today's every artist's problem. So let's put it in here. But we will talk about the AI and cyborg art in the 15th week, last week of the semester. So it will be with me again. But let's make a little introduction to it. So I will show you, of course, not you are not majoring in art history or art philosophy, art institutional. That's why I will give you some insights about how they try to define art from the history of from antiquities, from the concept of art ever existed, just some definitions and some philosophical insights that can give you some ideas. But of course, we will not look at all history of art and whole history of art philosophy. So there will be little explanations, quick and tips for you. So the basics of art when we are talking about art pieces or anything else, we always think, is it aesthetics? You know, we use aesthetics in plastic surgery, so defining beautiful or appealing or something that seems visually pleasing in general. This is how we use it. So what is the concept of aesthetics? What is your perception of beauty and ugliness, for example? When we are talking about aesthetics, what comes to your mind? Can anyone give me an insight and your ideas? You can add something to it. For example, when we say aesthetics, what do you think?
Maybe symmetry.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you think more about uh, this, the golden ratio, etc. You go to. Do you know any idea of it?
Um, Maybe I don't know. I think symmetrical um, sculptures, for example,
Mm-hmm.
two angels looking opposite sides seems aesthetic to me. Or maybe the painting, I forgot its name, but Jesus and God almost touching each other. That's
Hmm.
aesthetic to me because it's kind of symmetrical in my mind.
Hmm. Okay. So, for example, for you, to having a ratio, a symmetry, something mathematical, maybe. Seems more aesthetic, the equality of the proportions, etc. So this is what you think is aesthetics. So the one you are talking about is the Chapel of Sistine, and it was made by Michelangelo. It's the whole ceiling of one cathedral, or chapel, actually. So and we will talk about it when we are looking at the introduction of Renaissance art. So you will see that all these perfect ratios of human body, human beauty, uh, the use of techniques there will be very important. So it's a part of scientific and technologic way of interpreting the art. So with the Renaissance, for example, these rules will be important. So the aesthetics will be defined with these rules and techniques and scientific discoveries, actually, the ideal proportions of a human body, etc. So it can change from person to person, of course, the concept of beauty and ugliness, as you say, for example, for someone, symmetry will be important, but for someone else, it won't be. For example, these are some, just a moment. Sorry, I have cats. So when we are talking about aesthetics, it's not just a piece of art is aesthetic, is pleasing visually or appealing to us. It can be, for example, like here, paysage, a view of, for example, of the tower, the girl tower here, Kız Kulesi at night, for example. It can be appealing. Uh, just a view from a village and the mountains can be pleasing. So, when we are talking about aesthetics, we are not just talking about art pieces. So, nature or nature's this mathematical symmetry or this mathematical ratios can make it beautiful, appealing. Animals, like here, some animals can be cute looking. The beauty of, for example, some of their fur, of their like the feathers of these animals, or for example, even if this there is a snake and it's a dangerous animal sometimes, but with its patterns, it can be appealing. So the concept of aesthetic is really wide. So it really have to be uh, diminished to art with time. So canons of beauty and artistic value are constantly changing. So we can have these ideas of beauty, but it can change with time, with our experiences. It can be influenced by whims of time and fashion, shifting attitudes, and the emergence of new technologies and materials. So your something that you find aesthetically appealing in your yacht, for example, when you were a kid, can appear to you not beautiful anymore in 10 years or 20 years. Or, for example, with fashion, the beauty standards are always changing. One day, for example, having uh, having a clear 10 is more appealing, like it was in old times. Or just one day, it will be more tent, will be more appealing. Having sun-kissed, they say, tents can be appealing. Or one day you can say, as we know it, we especially women know it. For example, one day being thin, very thin, almost uh, almost very like a skeleton way thing can be appealing, or being more curves, having more curves, having being bigger can be more in fashion one day. So you know everything. For example, I hope you know Michael Jackson, for example. He was a black man, but with time and some surgeries, for example, he became uh, whiter and whiter. They say he was a pigmentation problem also, a skin disease. But with all these surgeries and his own idea of beauty and aesthetics, he became the one at right until his death. For example, these are some examples of aesthetic surgery, some plastic surgery. So we say aesthetic, but they say plastic, of course. And what means plastic and plastic arts, for example, when we are talking about, is that we can reshape it, we can play with the shape, we can change it. It's something that be molded, can be played with it. Plastic means that actually. You know, it's a material that can have any shape that you want. It's easy to reform it. So this is why it's called plastic surgeries. So you reshape someone. So these are some surgeries made. So these women, actually, it's always the more we see that is this aesthetic um, dictations on women, unfortunately. So a woman that you can call beautiful and natural, and she can change herself uh, to keep up with the beauty standards that is asked by her time, so they can change. For example, this family have dominated any markets, so they are introducing, dictating to you their aesthetics. And they have to, if they created an aesthetic idea, they have to keep up with this. So they have to always look like what they sell you to you. So you see here, for example, from 40s, 30s aesthetics, how the women were making their hair and their clothing. And then we see in, for example, a beauty icon, Marilyn Monroe, and then the idea of beauty aesthetics change. You see how huge differences with time. And look at the more antique ones. So Venus of Willendorf, as you see at left, we will see it in the second week. I think we will talk about the prehistoric art. This is one of the first foundings of sculptures in history. It is really old, and the standards of beauty, standards of aesthetics is what you can see: big breasts, big belly, look, big curves actually. So this beauty, this Venus that they call it, was the symbol of actually the fertility for the times. Because if you think about prehistoric times, before the invention of history, before the invention of even writing and the first humans that are on Earth, so many sources are limited, and I don't think there will be so much woman that big like this. But the idea of fertility, the idea of good uh, eating, for example, to having much more resources was symbolized with this beauty, this aesthetic standards. So big breasts mean that she can feed herself and she can feed her babies. So she can be fertile because she can have babies that will be healthy because she has milk on her. Or the belly or the hips. So she can have easily babies. She can have healthy babies. The fertility, this was a symbol of that. But with time also, the same name, another Venus, we see a Venus de Milo in Roman times. You can see that how the body of the woman, how the idealized body of the woman changed in the prehistory, in ancient times also. So this shows us the conception of aesthetics can change with time also. It can change to person, of course. We always say this are not to be debatable, you know, the colors and the aesthetics. is, but also there are some rules of beauty, rules of aesthetics, rules of ideal uh, shapes changing time to time also that are dominating their eras, their epochs. The idea of aesthetics and beauty can change also with the techniques and with the abilities. So at the left, you see Rubens and Dürer, Albrecht Dürer. These are two very famous, very successful, very able and technically master uh, their art. They all mastered their art and they're really good at drawing. So, but at the left, you see a beautiful child, but at the left, you see an old and an ugly woman. You may choose the Rubens's daughter because it's more beautiful, because this is a child, this is a young child, this is a little example of beauty. But the both with their mastery of drawing, these are two aesthetically appealing and successful drawings, for example. So you can think that a subject of a piece of art is beautiful and it can be more aesthetically appealing. But if the technique and uh, if the application is also technically or style-wise beautiful and authentic, etc., it also has an aesthetic value. So, could I explain myself? Because as English, of course, is our second language, and these are the so blurry concepts. It can be not as clear as we want. So do you have an insight about what I'm trying to explain you? Is it clear?
Yes.
Can I ask something? Uh,
Yes.
I I understood the points you're trying to make. I'm very clear on that, but I wanna further ask, is the lady on the right, the old lady, more aesthetically appealing because she is more realistic, more close to the real person?
Mm, First of all, I don't know if these are more realistic because we don't have their photographs, of course, their children, but it's not like this. So one of is from one master Rubens from this is Renaissance and after Renaissance, and Dürer also from a different geography, but still in Renaissance, and a master of Renaissance. So these both paintings are really paintings, I've said. Drawings are valuable, are we can say equally valuable with their techniques and their own in or their styles. But at first look, because one of is young and beautiful, you may think that one of is much appealing aesthetically. This is what I'm, but none of them, I can't say that one is better than the other because these are both technically and aesthetic style-wise and the quality of drawing, they are really successful, and these are two masters of Renaissance. Yes, someone asked something. I hope it's
Yeah,
clear. Yes.
I'm going to say something. This photo is more close to reality of human being and what human looks like when they are aging and
Mhm.
when they are old. It's more close to reality because it's aesthetic too. About, it's because it's, close to reality of
Mhm.
life and human being. So that's
Mhm.
aesthetic too.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just not an old lady. It's
Mhm.
just not an ugly old lady for us.
Mhm.
It's close to reality. That's why it's aesthetic to us.
Mhm. So this is really good that you say. So you can really have this perception. But when we show these two paintings, two drawings independently, for example, in generally people prefer the young one because it's more beautiful as a subject of, but with techniques, but the as we say, the ideals, and ideals shouldn't have being the most beautiful, but the most realistic also. It's a trait, a feature of Renaissance. Ideal but real. So uh, this is what we want to say. The point that you are both are also talking, the points that I'm trying to explain is this: the quality, the aesthetics of their own times, the aesthetics of the rules, the aesthetics of the techniques is important also. So the concept of aesthetics can change and can be applied to different uh, rules and different levels of understanding. So you are right, and it's really good that you can value, see the aesthetic values of these drawings. And as I say, aesthetics change from person to person. So here we see two paintings of Caravaggio, same painter, same year, and same subject. The subject is Saint Matta. I don't know if you know, but Saint Matta is one of the writers of Bible. He was an illiterate, so he was raised in a village, a poor village. So he found then God, and he learned how to write and to read and write. This was his story. And he is a very important figure for the church, of course, for the Catholic Church, actually. During Renaissance and then Baroque also, we see that there are some patterns, there are some making art and finding clients is an important thing. So you have to uh, win your life. You have to earn money for your life. So artists have to earn money, and so the patrons, it can be rich people or it can be the Catholic Church generally, they order paintings. So the church, as Saint Matta is a very important figure for them, asks Caravaggio to paint, to make a painting about Saint Matta's this revelation, this his importance. So as Caravaggio knows the history, and according to his own style, he's more Baroque. He's a Baroque painter. He uses shadows and this light differently. So this is the features of Baroque. So he makes the first painting that you will see at the left. Uh, a poor looking man. The angel is helping him to read and write. So because he was coming from a poor also village, he was the only one who could read and write. You see more modest, more simple man, more humble man at the left. This was the aesthetics of Caravaggio himself. and he painted that way. But as the church was paying it, and as what the client wants to is the most important thing for the time, and because they will pay it. So the church didn't like the one on the left because it was much darker, it was much simpler, and the human being looked like more inferior than the angel, for example. You know, the angels also serve the humans. Humans is the most important in the eyes of God, and Saint Martha is a very important man. So he had to change his aesthetics, his way of painting, and then he made the painting at the right, more colors, more light, and he put even a halo. You can see here on the head of Saint Martha. He puts him in a more richer color, like red, a more richer clothing, and he is has much more distance between the angel and himself. So this is, you can see how the aesthetics uh, of the perception can change, and have to change also your style sometimes to earn their money. And he wasn't very happy, of course, to make another painting that he didn't like. That wasn't his idea. So, you know, there is a saying, they generally match it with Nietzsche, but there is no any evidence or any sources that he is the real owner of this quote. But they say, you know, if you kill a cockroach, you are a hero. If you kill a butterfly, you are evil. Morals have aesthetic criteria also. So this is a general idea of how we perceive beauty, aesthetics, how we are always blinded by the idea of beauty also. So is it clear until here? Any questions or any commentary?
It is clear for me. I just can't help but wonder why Caravaggio's second painting, Saint Martha was looking at the angel's fingers instead of the angels itself.
Just let me see. No, is probably giving him insights, or you see at the right, the angel's hand are on the hands of uh, Saint Martha. She or he, the angel, is helping him to read. Here, he's not looking at what he's telling it, but he is doing what he wants. He already know, actually. He is already a wise man. It should be, I think, interpreted like this. So he hasn't a direct and close relation with the angel because he don't need the angel to guide him. But the angel has just brought him some news or some messages from God, supposedly. In the other painting, the first painting of uh, Caravaggio, the angel is not just a messenger, but it's a tutor, it's an help, it's someone, it's some creature that is powerful. And so that should be, I think, interpreted like that. We can make it like this.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, so we told about aesthetics, and what is the idea of aesthetics philosophically, and why we use this word everywhere. Aesthetics is a branch of philosophy that deals with the nature of beauty, art, taste, and the creation and appreciation of beauty. So it's a really wide concept. As I say, it can include also art, beauty, human beauty, animals' beauty, the beauty of nature. So, or what these um, all these things that make you feel, how they makes or stimulate your inside emotions or your, for example, your how they are appealing, etc. So it can conclude everything. So when we are speaking of someone's aesthetics, it refers to that theorist. It can be a theoretician, it can theorist, it can be an artist, it can be anyone, or it can be just a viewer, just a normal standard human being, a person's artistic principles, preferences, or agenda, what we have as purpose. So the reader, the listener, or the viewer can also have an aesthetic in this sense, which refers to their judgments and preferences regarding art. So not just artists or the one who is involved in this disciplines has aesthetics, but we can have our own aesthetic views also. It examines the elements that make something aesthetically pleasing or valuable and asks questions about the nature of artistic experience and judgment. When we go back to the world of aesthetics, it comes from the Greek word aesthetai, which meaning perceive. Aestheta is perceptible things. And then aesthetic means relating to perception by the senses. So it's actually, when we look at it, what we call aesthetics is perception, is how we perceive things. We can perceive it in a positive way, negative way, or we can admire it, we can have fear about it. All these perceptions are can change according to different persons also. It means sense perception or sensory cognition, what we sense, what we perceive inside. And it was adapted in the mid-18th century by Alexander Baumgarten to encompass philosophical studies of art. So there was a word like this, and this is Alexander Baumgarten who chooses the first to use aesthetics to explain this concept. He chose this word because he believed that works of art are primarily directed at sensory perception and lower level cognitive form. So he thinks that, he thought that the purpose, the direction, the tendency of art piece of art is to catch your senses, to appeal to your senses. So this is why he chose aesthetics, the perception, the sensory perceptions, your emotional perception for us. So therefore, this means that philosophers are more concerned with the receptive side of the interaction between a work of art and its readers, listeners, and viewers. So the philosophy of aesthetics, in a way, is more interested how we perceive them. So you can have an aesthetic experience of a concerto or a sunset, as we say. In this context, the task of aesthetic philosopher is to try to say what is privileged in the aesthetic experience in terms of perception, attitude, and similar experiences. So his work is to see which one is more appealing, more privileged, more at the first uh, levels, actually. Alongside aesthetic experience, there are also artistic properties and qualities, of course. It's not just the idea of perceiving, but the piece also have to have some qualities. These are in general expressive qualities. Oops, sorry. That do not display mental states or human characteristic. So every expressive quality, every future of an art piece or a piece or something do not have always a relation with characteristic or insights, etc. So expression also expressive, when we are talking about expression, expressive qualities, what we mean is, this is a word from Latin, meaning to push outwards. So you want to put outside, to show, to you do not want to hold in you, and you want to show them. You bring your emotions to the surface. This is what means expression. And in expressionist arts, essentially, it's about the emotions being brought out in such a way that they can be perceived by artists and viewers. So we show our insights to people. Our aim is to show them. So, for example, an artist might look at a landscape and feel sadness, and then this person will draw the landscape in such a way that you will also feel this sadness. This is expression. So you will see, you will perceive his aesthetics, his way of seeing things. So the same way with him, so that it will be an expressed work of art. For other features in art and natural beauty, we can use descriptors such as monumental, grand, dynamic, elegant, magnificent, or fragile, for example. So you can use different adjectives or different descriptions. As we mentioned, these may not necessarily be psychological or human terminology. So these shouldn't, when we are describing something's futures, these monumental, grand, dynamic, these are not always related to the emotional parts, psychology, or even they shouldn't be some human words to us. For example, monumental. You don't say to someone, the human being monumental, but when you see, for example, some landscapes, some mountains, you can say it's monumental because it's like a monument. It's really big. So when we are talking about aesthetics, it's not just psychological features, but it also have different properties. At the same time, it's not just perceiving emotionally, it's also perceiving visually and with their in their forms, in their style, etc. So at the same time, aesthetic properties are different from response-dependent properties, such as being 3 meters tall. So being 3 meters tall is not an aesthetic feature. But however, describing a mountain as majestic depends on human perception. So, for example, this can apply to our entire species. For example, a mountain is majestic, as is monumental for you, for me, for a little mouse, for example, it's more than majestic, it's huge. But for example, if there was a Godzilla, he wouldn't be very impressed with the monumental idea of mountain because Godzilla is huge, a giant also. So we can experience aesthetic qualities as the qualities of objects like mountains rather than as our own properties. So, however, these qualities may be valid based on their relationship with subjects like us. So, like us part is important because I'm quoting here Noel Carroll. He is a art philosopher and art historian and theorist. He says that here these kind of relations that we keep with uh, mountains, for example, is also subjects like us. He didn't say humans for it. He explains us, he defines creatures like us because he thinks that all intelligent beings, if they exist, like ET, they could also distinguish aesthetic properties. So let's keep this in mind for artificial intelligence also. So if we are talking about an intelligent being, it can be an alien. Maybe in the future it can be an conscient machine, for example. So this is a theory that can be used. When understood as a term indicating a connection with the viewer or recipient, a distinction can be made between aesthetic and art. So in principle, a theory of art can be designed without referring to a potential audience. So this means that for aesthetics, the perceiving part, so the receiver part, the one who views, the one who listens, the one who experiences is very important because it means perceiving. So there should be something existing and there should be someone else who sees, hears, or experiences these things. But when you are making art, you do not need a viewer. Yes, of course, if you want to sell or if you want to express, if you want to be heard, etc., you need a receiver. But in the concept of art, uh, you can make art for art itself. You can make art for yourself, or you can make art just to express whatever you want and not for a purpose or not to make others feel it or others think about it. So you don't have to care about how it will be perceived. So art, when you are making art, you are free of everything. You can do whatever you want to. Any purpose is possible. So the theory of art can analyze art solely based on the art object and its function without mentioning the recipient. So we can talk about art without a recipient, without perception. We can talk about how the art was made technically good or how it was a good mimic, it was a good it reflects the style of its time, etc., etc. Many features that we can find, many traits that we can find, but we don't have to put a relation between the recipient and the one who made the work of art. Similarly, aesthetic inquiry is not necessarily required to refer to art objects. So aesthetics do not need art also. So you do not need to perceive things. It shouldn't be a art piece, as we say. Natural objects like landscapes, sky, animals, everything can create an aesthetic experience. So aesthetics and art are not mandatorily have to be together, but when there is about aesthetic art philosophy, when we are talking about the way of defining art in an aesthetic way, this is another discipline. So they can come together or they can have in their own ways. Yes.
Um, I understand that aesthetics is not limited to art, but rather exists in our perception in nature and stuff. I want to ask, does art have to be aesthetic in order to be called art?
Actually, this is what we are trying to explain. Uh, Art do not have to be aesthetic. And in aesthetics, there is the perception. So there is a third party. So when we are talking about art, there is artists, the one who is making art. Uh, a second is the art piece, the work of art, the result of his, hers art. And the third part is the recipient, is you, this can be you or the client, etc. So let's think about Caravaggio. So the aesthetics of the when we are talking about aesthetics, we are referring to the recipient also. So how it have the reaction, how it was responded, how it was received at the part of this third party. So the viewer is important for us, the viewer's ideas, the viewer's emotions. It's important for us when we are talking about aesthetic concept of art. The part is important also, but it's not necessary. Every art piece is not made to be aesthetically pleasing or to have an aesthetic response in the receivers. So you can make art just for yourself. You can make art ugly, even, or disgusting sometimes, or shocking, just to have a reaction, or just because it pleased to you, just because it's the best way to express your feelings or your thoughts. So art can be free of aesthetics, and aesthetics can always be free of art. Is it more clear for you?
Yes, it raises some other questions in my head, but I don't want to dwell on it too much.
So if I can answer, or if I can give you um, just a tip to find the answer, I can try. You can ask.
Well, it's a long question, but I think since you said art can be ugly, disgusting, shocking, I understand, but then what makes something art? So, like there was this banana taped to the wall,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
uh, that, I mean, I found it very, I mean, compared to Caravaggio's paintings, it was nothing. It wasn't art to me, but what made that art to be valued so highly?
mm-hmm. So first of all, these are different styles of different concepts of art. Uh, so more figurative, maybe more techniques, more crafting can be appealing to you. And so it is your perception of art, it can be. Or we are talking about contemporary arts, we are talking about Dada, we can talk about, for example, surreal art, etc. So um, the concept and the ideas that are creating art can change. It was what you say, the banana taped was a really extreme example of it. So, of course, um, it can be valued because it can be shocking, or it wants to, for example, the manifest of the artists, or the marketing of the artists can be impressing, so it has this value, or because it's so shocking and it's so we can say silly that it can appeal viewers. and people, for example, buy it and eat it. It's an action, it's another performance, and it's an answer to his art. So he created a, how we can say, um, a sensation with his art. So he actually, you are talking about his art. We are wondering if it is art or not. So it's discussed, and it created a new way of thinking and talking about things. So he created an agenda. He created a uh, new platform to be discussed. So in this way, he can be successful if it was his intention, for example, to be heard, to be seen. So, what is the purpose of artist? Uh, is it now successfully reached or not? We can ask this also. So, in this way, the idea of the artists making some shocking piece or stupid piece, even some dada, some absurd thing, it can also be to provoke or these ideas, these reactions in you, in the viewers. So this is also a success in his part. So the concept, the purpose, the definition of art, the intentions of art changing with time, with technology, with the society's conception, with politics, or with the needs of the market. There's a concept named art market. You buy, it's like, like the dollars and euros, etc. Something is higher, and one day you are more popular, and then it falls down. So this is also a way of making art. It cannot be valuable for you in your perception, in your aesthetics, of course, but there is another world of it. There is a background of it. So we have to think about all these futures together. I wouldn't have a banana, buy a banana, of course. I would prefer to uh, have a Caravaggio, but these are two different way of seeing art. So I cannot uh, yes, I can personally compare them and like one more, but in the concept of art, in the concept of the freedom of art and the changing language, changing or is like an organism that art is changing, we cannot always put it uh, in a more failed way.
I understand. So as long as one person agrees and accepts something to be art, then it's technically art, but the intentions can be different depending on the art. Like,
Sure, but we have different uh, definitions and different um, theories of art. So, for example, for Renaissance, if it should be, I'm just giving a simple example, of course, it's not the whole definition. For example, an art piece is successful for Renaissance is if for example, the techniques are really good applied, the light and the shadows are used uh, more realistic, and ideally the body form of, if there is a figure, it should be um, ideally proportioned but as realistic as possible, and there should be, for example, perspective. The technique of perspective should be used. For example, these are the rules of, for example, a Renaissance painting. Let's say it's in a simple way. This is uh, the definition of art. This is how we can accept a piece of art as a Renaissance piece of art. But when we come to today, for example, there is another theory. we will mention it. It's called institutional art, for example, institutional art theory. It means that if it is made or chosen by a human being, first of all, the first condition is that. And the second one, it should be accepted by the art authorities, the art theorists, art markets, etc. And when we are talking about art market, we are talking about, for example, dealers and these all these galleries or all these auction houses, for example. If the world of art, the authorities of art, contemporary authorities accept it, it's an art piece, for example. So these are different theories of art. These exist. And with, as I say, with every time, every new technology, every new idea, a social idea, industrial ideas, etc. With industrial revolution also, the concept and the perception of art changes. So in the last time, yes, art market should accept it, actually. So
Okay.
not just one person decides if it's art. But if you say I'm making art, it's your, of course, personal uh, intention and idea. So who am I to say that no, you are not making art? But when you are want to sell it or to show us, to put it in a museum or in a gallery, then there are the authorities come and say, yes, we can put it, or no, we cannot sell it, or the value is not this one, etc. So then the art market, the art authorities in this way. They look at the technique, they look at the originality, they look at the authenticity, etc. There are many, many features uh, depending uh, to the piece of art that you also produced, actually.
I understand. It's definitely more convoluted of a subject than I expected, but yes, I understand. Thank you.
Okay. So it's really an undefined concept. So with every time there is a new thing, new technique, new way of looking at things. For example, it changes. So, for example, today we have uh, think about the photography, for example. Before the photography, the paintings were the most valuable ones was the most portraits or most realistic ones were really valued. And then the photography come and these people saw that you can have actually have photograph have the same let's say it same as more realistic than the existing one. So why giving money to painters that will paint your portraits or etc. So this job was losing, diminished, and then there would be a new style emerged. It was Impressionism because people saw that painting something as real as it's shown, it's seen, is not interesting anymore. And they search new ways of painting, new ways of perceiving things. So they say, I will paint this one as I see it, not as it is thought it should be seen, but as me personally, as I seen it, as I want to see it. So you see, with the technology, the concept of art changes. Now, realistic art can be produced by photography, for example, in a very simple way. Of course, it's not just that. And then we have Impressionism, example. So today, for example, we have AI, art with AI. So it changes also in, for example, in 50 years, they will, the theorists look back and say there were pieces that they wanted to make with AI. These ones were worth of, for example, called as art pieces. These were just uh, some there is some authenticity in this one. For example, the technique is really good used. The human idea is interesting, but in this ones, it's just a simple, for example, prompt to text, prompt to visual one. So it's not as valued as it. For example, just I'm just imagining and saying things. In short, to to make it all short, first, while the philosophy of art is object focused, so the most important part for us is the work of art, of aesthetic is perception focused. Similarly, the prehistoric cave paintings, representations, and the other outputs that we define as art today were produced by people of that time, and we will talk about it next week, for purposes such as communication, rituals, hunting strategies, fertility magic, etc. So, therefore, what was important to them was not the experiences or qualities that the paintings provided to the viewer, but rather the function of the object. So they didn't probably made these cave paintings to be seen, oh, one day they will find it and they will find this aesthetically pleasing. No, they were having another aim with it and another purpose. So they weren't actually making it for art or for pleasing people, but they were making it as like a tool for them. It was a tool of communication. It was a tool of ritual. It was a tool of magic for them, or a kind of archiving, a kind of memory, for example. So if there had been a theory of art in prehistoric times, it might have been defined as a type of technology, we can say. However, there are also theories within the philosophy of art that argue that art must possess aesthetic qualities. It's one of them, which in turn examines the definitions of aesthetics in art. So now, if we, one of the theories, one of the definitions of art includes art should be aesthetic. It's a must in one theory. So there is a concept like this. The aesthetic theorist begins with the assumption that there is something special in our interaction with works of art. So according to them, works of art offer a unique experience, and these experiences encourage an unusual, that is distinctive intellectual type of state. So I go back to the this art theorist, Noel Carroll. He makes a simple formula of, for example, aesthetic theory. He has a book named it's an Introduction to Art Philosophy. So he explains simply these different theories of art. One can be aesthetic, one can be institutional, one can be formal. So people try to explain and define art and value art with different theories during all history. So every time it's keeping up. One theory is correcting the other one, but have their falses, for example, or their can be lacks of some ideas on it. So one new theorist takes the existing theory and make it with other words and create another theory. So it's an ongoing work and it will always be, I think, a work for theorists. So because art theorists, art philosophers also need a job. So their one is always to thinking about how they can create ideas of art, create definitions of art, how to explain art with new technologies, scientific discoveries, or even political changes. So, when we want to simply say aesthetic theories, this person says, aesthetic theorist says that viewers use all works of art as sources of aesthetic experience. Therefore, they seek out works of art. So, in aesthetic theory, the viewer, the receiver of the art piece is privileged. So, this person needs and wants to see art pieces to experience these aesthetics. That is, viewers expect works of art to function as sources of aesthetic experience, so that they want to see pieces that made specially for them to have an aesthetic experience. If artists are interested in having an audience, if the artist wants to have an audience, if the artist wants to have viewers, if the artist wants followers, for example, then they aim for their works to meet the expectation of viewers who are in search of art. So he has to please these viewers aesthetically. According to the aesthetic theory, these artists want to have an audience. Of course, they want followers. So their works should be fulfilling the expectation of viewers who are searching for art. So again, they have to please, satisfy their viewers. So their piece should be aesthetically perceivable. Thus, artists want their works to function as sources of aesthetic experience. So, according to the aesthetic theory, the art piece should be having an aesthetic experience. It's here in Turkish, for example, it's liking something and aesthetics. Liking something is a pleasure, but when we are talking about aesthetic, it's more refined. There is a video called Aesthetic Appreciation Crash Course Philosophy. Here you can see the YouTube link. It gives you some simple insights about what is aesthetic appreciation. So you can watch it. And these crash courses are about many disciplines and many domains. For example, crash course philosophy, crash course technology, crash course engineering, etc. There are many of them on YouTube. You can find them. They are giving you simple tips for these kinds of disciplines and domains that you are seeking for answers, for example. So you may watch them. So as we say, aesthetic experience does not define all of art. So there is non-aesthetic, as I said, anti-aesthetic art even. In other words, the aesthetic theory of art is not a comprehensive theory that covers all of art. As we dive deeper into concept of art in the future, we will see that there is no holistic definition that can define the entirety of art. However, it will still be useful for you to look at the concept of art, the vocabulary, and the prominent definition through art history. So there are some definitions that were more preferred or more logic than the other ones. So I made a little resume of it. So I think today we will not be able to finish it because we have until 10:20. So I will upload this and I will, if you would have some questions about the notes, you may ask me next week, and I will make a little resume of the things that we couldn't cover today. But as I told you, read all the notes, and everything will be. If there is nothing, if there's something that is not clear for you, you can always ask me. For example, in this, you can say in page 8, I didn't understand this, for example. So we have 15 minutes and 10 minutes more. Let's start with the basics. The meaning of art. So there is a general definition of art for everyone, of course. The simplest one, and of course, the one is not philosophical or not in the art history. It's creativity in expressing emotions and thoughts through words, writing, painting, sculpture, etc., in a way that appeals to the eye and the heart. For example, this is from Turkish Language Association. But as we say, it might not appeal to the eye or nor the heart. So it's a skill also in demonstrating doing something. We can say that the art of speaking, the art of, for example, cooking, like all the rules that should be followed in a profession. And also there is a sub meaning craft. So at the beginning, art, craft, skill, there was just one definition for all of them. And it was including every craft, every skill set. There was a word in Greek techne that meanings, all the techniques used, all the skills used. It you could talk about medicine, horse riding even, or poetry, philosophy, sculpture. Everything was in under this same term because it was depending on some kind of skill and skill set that you can have with performing with practice. As we said before, art is like languages. It's an organism, living organism. It's a fluid, evolving and transforming organism that expands and changes. So this is why it's maybe not possible, probably not possible to define it exactly. But also there are some people who try to it. Art can be beautiful, can be mysterious, and even unsettling. Art and visual images surround us in our daily lives. They influence our understanding of history and other cultures. So they change also, or they reflect our understanding, our perceiving of the past events, history, the cultures, the politics, the techniques, and the histories and the myths, for example, the stories, the history of them. For example, a ceramic vase, a painting, or a video installation, works of art stimulate, engage, and can even anger us. For example, they were painting on ceramic vases in Greek culture the stories of their myths, for example. So these were not just pieces of art or craft for them, but these were just archives for them, the keeper of their myths and histories and memories. Art is whatever society defines as art. Art status is often given to aesthetically well-made works. It's the most wide expression of definition of art, of course, as well as works with religious, historical, or even theoretical meaning. The definition of art can change quite dramatically over time from culture to culture and even among individuals. So as we said, your personal art definition also can be different than the one who dominates your time, for example. So these are words related to art, and I try to explain you the art etymology, and you can see it. For example, it comes from art to fit together. So it's actually something, it's an interesting root, work of art, practical skill, business, craft. As you see, skill as a result of learning or practice. So this was the main meaning of art. So there is not a word that would define the concept of art that we are talking about today. But we are limited with these words actually. There's Kunst, Tekne. These are also words that you can, as I mentioned you, different meanings of art in different languages. And the Tekne, as I told you, it was referring to whole of this domains: carpentry, sculpture, medicine, horse riding, horse poetry, philosophy, etc. So I'm passing it. You can read this. This is just ideas of different artists about art. For example, Ed Reinhardt is an artist. He says the only thing that can be said about art is that it is something. Art means art as art. Another thing means something else. So art is only for art's sake. He didn't care about the perception or anything else. Or, for example, another artist, Donald Judd, says he's more contemporary than minimalistic art. He says if someone calls their work as art, then it is art. He said. Immanuel Kant says art is a creation of genius. So the personal definitions change also. But the most holistic work about the definitions of art existing is the work of Noel Carroll. Actually, I think and also the language and explanation is as simple as possible. So not very tricky or philosophically heavy for you. It's Philosophy of Art, a Contemporary Introduction. So you may, if you are interested, you may look at it. So over time, our understanding evolved, as we said. So a work became considered art not only if it imitated, but also if it represented something. Especially after Duchamp's fountain, the need for interpretation emerged. So there are many different art stories, but here's some major theories. So I will, as I told you, upload this, but next week I will quickly explain to you these theories. If you want to be more prepared, please read these theories. And you know, I mentioned of them, for example, it can be an imitation, it can expression. For example, art should express feelings, or formalism, art should be in some forms, some shapes, the use of colors, etc. And there is another theory, he says, as I told you before, institutional theory. For example, if the art world, the art market accepted it is art, like this. And with the postmodernism and new approaches, so the new aesthetics and new explanations come to our view. So you can always look at them. So I will, as I say, I will upload this presentation and I will next week quickly explain to you resumes of these theories because we started, as it's our first week, we started about the introduction to the proceeding of the course. So if you are interested, you can read the presentation before coming to the course. And if you would have prepared some questions, you can ask them to me. So thank you for participating today. And also your personal participations. Thank you for listening. I will upload the videos recording also to Blackboard, as well as the notes and the presentation. So if you have any questions about how we will go with the course, how about exams, or the subjects that we cover, or any presentations, any PowerPoint page, for example. I didn't understand what is aesthetics, for example. You can send me an email or a message on Blackboard, or for anything you can address to us. About the course procedures, you can ask me or Özüm, which is Özüm Hatipoğlu, which is the coordinator of the course. So we will answer to you in 1 or at least 2 days if we don't have classes actually. So we will try to answer you as soon as possible. So let's finish it for today. Next week we will continue with, let me see. Yes, the beginnings of art and its foundations. So we will go to the caves actually. As I say, I will start with these major theories of art, and then we will continue uh, with the foundation of art, how the first pieces of art were found or made. Okay, if you do not have any question, you can leave the course. Thank you for participating. See you next week, I hope.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Enes.
Also, I'm sorry if my questions dragged out the lesson.
Oh, no, it's it's because this is the first day, so I started with explaining you the syllabus, etc. Olive, this is why we were late in it, not the questions.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you to you too. So the course has finished. I'm stopping the recording.